Hi there, I'm Lisa Fletcher, and you're in the stream. Today, human disease prevention through ecology. We're going to discuss the link between the health of the environment and the health of people. And we're going to look at a deadly mystery illness affecting kids in Uganda called nodding syndrome. Our digital producer, Malika Bilal, is here looking out for your live feedback. Tweet her using the hashtag AJStream. So, Malika, I was looking at the tweets. The majority of our community, they say that humans are to blame for the spread and the cause of a lot of these diseases we're talking about.
You're right, Lisa. And even in Uganda, in the case of nodding syndrome, they're saying it's people, and in this case, people behind the government, who aren't doing enough to stop the spread of this syndrome. So for those of you at home, if you'd like to join the conversation, if you have thoughts, questions, or comments, tweet us using the hashtag AJStream.
And joining us in studio is Alonso Aguirre. He is from the Smithsonian Mason School of Conservation in Virginia. His work focuses on many fields, including wildlife ecology and the study of disease epidemics. Alonso, thank you so much for joining us.
Lisa, it's a pleasure to be here.
Today's show was actually suggested to us via Facebook by Sharon Opindi in Uganda. If you have an idea for a topic that you think we should be covering, just let us know. You can post your suggestions at facebook.com/AJStream.
Hi, I'm Patrice Grell-Yersic, creator of beauty blog Afro.com. I write about natural hair and beauty for women of color, and I'm in the stream.
In northern Uganda, more than 3,000 children have been affected by what is known as nodding syndrome. It's a debilitating and often deadly condition that causes mental deterioration and seizure-like activity in the brain, making those who have it seem to just nod off. And although doctors in Uganda have dealt with nodding syndrome since 2009, little's known about its cause or how to cure it. So what is being done to address the issue? Joining us via Skype from Kampala is Dr. Annette Aleno-Gabirano. She's a medical doctor and advisor to the Maternal and Child Health Program with World Vision, a charity and relief organization. She's leading World Vision's response to nodding syndrome. Annette, welcome to the stream.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So the cause of nodding syndrome isn't known. It's not really known if the syndrome is contagious. What's being done to address these issues right now?
A lot is being done for nodding syndrome. The government of Uganda is leading the response through the Ministry of Health, being the focal government body. And this is a resource-constrained setting, and I know there have been issues all over the net about the government's role and how not much is being done in the nodding syndrome response. Now, the government has called upon all development partners like World Vision who are on board to assist the government, and they've formed both district level and national level task force to deal with nodding syndrome. The government has created a lot of awareness at village level to the communities on case identification and also encouraging early healthcare seeking behaviors at the community level. They've established a number of treatment centers for nodding syndrome where community members can refer their children who have been affected.
But how are they treating it if they don't know what causes it?
Well, the treatment at the moment is really supportive. We do not know what causes it, we don't know how it's spread, and we do not know how to cure it. However, we do know the effects that nodding syndrome has on children, and we are actually trying to mitigate those effects. So children are nodding, which is sort of like a seizure disorder. So the government is encouraging treatment with anti-seizure drugs. It also causes a lot of malnutrition, especially when people associate the nodding. It's usually triggered sometimes with food. So you'll find that many children will be starved because when they are given food, they nod. So it causes malnutrition and growth retardation. So there's also nutritional supplements. At the same time, there's a psychosocial effect of the nodding syndrome, both to the affected children, their immediate families, and the community. So there's also psychosocial support being given.
Annette, our community from Uganda and beyond is chiming in on this. Wahid on Twitter says the problem with our approach to this subject is that we tend to focus on diagnosis and prognosis, not on how to take preventative steps. I'd like you to ponder that, but also before you answer, there's a video comment from a member of our community. Have a listen.
Okay.
I'm Francois, recording from Cyprus. I'd just like to comment on the way nodding disease has been treated, because it has been known for nearly 10 years, but has remained unreported. And when it comes out, dying children are referred to as zombies. It's just not fair. Now, The nodding disease takes children of about 5 to 15. Is it possible that their parents have been exposed to a certain chemical agent or a virus that has then mutated?
So now there are several questions there for you, but obviously the causes is one that he's addressing, and in the tweet before that, it's whether or not enough is being done to prevent this.
Well, the first thing I would like to say is no one is calling those children zombies, and at least I'm not aware of it. We're just calling them children who have been affected by nodding syndrome. Now, nodding syndrome was officially reported in August 2009 by the district health team in the affected district. Before that, it had been noticed for 5 years as an abnormally high prevalence of epilepsy. Now, it had symptoms of a similar condition had also presented in Tanzania and South Sudan, but nobody was so sure of what was going on. In Uganda, it presented in a place which has been, is just recovering from a over 20 years conflict. So there were also elements of could it be a post-traumatic stress disorder? It's only when people actually sat down and analyzed and realized it's actually only affecting children 5 to 15, and there were some specific things which were ruling out epilepsy and a post-traumatic stress disorder, and then it was declared publicly by the Ministry of Health, and then an action plan was drafted.
Alonso, I want to bring you in here. In something like this, where it's an unknown cause, but you've got thousands of children that are affected, how do you start? How do you begin to figure out this mystery?
Well, that's a very interesting question, Lisa, and that's the role of this new government program called PREDICT in trying to get into wildlife populations, identify the pathogens that these animals harbor, and see if we can prevent and predict the next outbreak. In this case, that we have already many children being killed by this disease, we need to somehow identify the cause to be able to do something about it.
Do you have a suspicion? I mean, I realize nodding syndrome is not necessarily your #1 area of expertise, but based on what you know, Alonso, is there an obvious place to start?
I think a good idea would be based on symptoms that may have a virological etiology. That means maybe caused by a virus. And so now we have new technologies like tag mass PCR, that's molecular techniques, that we can run some of this blood from these children and see if a pathogen may be present.
Well, I'm sorry to cut in, Alonso.
Good.
The Ministry of Health has called in international experts, and just about 2 weeks ago, there was a scientific conference on nodding syndrome. And the main thing was to try to see how best we can identify what is causing it and how it is spread. Now, at the moment, nodding syndrome is being linked to river blindness, onchocerciasis, and also roundworms. And the Ministry of Health has gone ahead to test the children who are nodding, and 88% of them actually had tested positive for river blindness, and there was mass treatment for river blindness in the affected region. However, there is also a lot of ongoing research around the possible associated conditions that are being discovered.
Annette, you mentioned the international conference. There's a tweet here from Naz who says, prevention is better than cure. Uganda is an example of ignorance from the international community. And then another theme that seems to be running through our community members is this tweet that says, the government failed to implement the simplest preventative measures. It did not take this issue seriously. Now, Annette, you just mentioned what some of the things that the government is doing, but there seems to be a disconnect here from the people in Uganda to what the efforts that the Ugandan government is implementing. How do we deal with that disconnect?
See, there's a lot of emotional attachment to this, but what I can say from a World Vision point of view and how we've been working with the Ministry of Health, one, everybody knows, nobody knows the cause of this syndrome. Well, that's why it's being referred to as a syndrome. Nobody knows how it is spread, and nobody knows the cure. So if you say prevention is better than cure, we do not know either of them, and that is why it's being investigated.
Okay. Do we have any more tweets on this topic? Because if not, I'm going to switch to our next topic for the show today.
I think our community members are gearing up for the next topic.
All right, yeah, we seem to have a lot of activity in that area. So on this idea of nodding syndrome, we're going to continue to follow this story online, so just check back with AJ Stream if you want to know more.